well, the UK has said no thanks to the EU. This is fascinating. It absolutely was not expected. We had Eamon Fingleton on the other day. We also had Mark Weiss brought on, I think, a couple days ago. Maybe that was on TV, talking about what is the progressive argument for Brexit. It's being pitched. I mean, basically the way it's being presented in the media is that this is a conservative victory. And in fact, Donald Trump was over in Scotland this morning going, well, yeah, even if the pound is falling, it's good for me because it's cheaper to visit my hotels in Scotland now. And which is actually true. But, it's not any reason to do Brexit. But and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because I'm seeing, like, what's particularly fascinating is the dueling liberals, people on both sides saying, leaving the EU was the liberal thing to do. No. Leaving the EU is the opposite of the liberal thing to do. Bernie Sanders was on MSNBC this morning and was asked about it, and basically said, well, the British people are just, fed up and they're moving. It's my take on this is that what you're watching, what we are all watching, what we're watching here in the United States with Congress having a 7% approval rating, what we're watching, with all the pushback against these international trade deals that are happening in the United States and around the world. These so-called international trade deals, they're really very, very heavily corporate managed changes to the way that basically giant corporations do business relative to all the rest of us, including, taking away rights to sue and things like that. But in any case, what I'm seeing is this neoliberal consensus, this arguably in the 40s and 50s, the whole Eurozone idea, came out of after World War II. The idea that if Europe all pulled together economically, if everybody was interdependent, that there wouldn't be another world war. I mean, they had just had two of the bloodiest wars, certainly in European history, arguably in world history, on their continent, within the lifetime of, individuals, within a single lifespan. Over a period of maybe arguably 2 to 3 generations at the most. And so, if we can pull everybody together, we can avoid another war. And so originally, the EU was was this progressive idea that was pitched as basically a trade agreement. But then the bureaucrats got into it then, and I realized, on the conservative side, that's the boogeyman word, but this is largely what happened is that the European Union was increasingly, and has been, I mean, we've talked about this numerous times on this program over the years, has been increasingly being taken over by basically, neoliberals. Look at the austerity that they've been imposing. Now, this is the Eurozone, not the European Union. The Eurozone are all the folks who are using the euro, the single unified currency. The European Union, which is what the UK just pulled out of. They were never part of the Eurozone. They still have the British pound. But the European Union basically is this, free trade zone and free labor zone, basically, where not only goods can travel without tariffs, but people can travel without permission, and or without the need for permission, let's say. And the growth of the Eurozone, this is interesting. There are a couple of statistics that I thought were fascinating. I got these from Steve Ratner this morning on MSNBC. He pointed out that the growth of the Eurozone since 2007 as a whole has been 1%. The GDP growth of the United States since 2007 has been about 10%. The GDP growth of Great Britain has been around 7%. So the UK was doing better than the Eurozone. So arguably one logical strand that some people might have been employing. I'm not suggesting this is the case, but that this was arguably one of the rationales. was, hey, we're doing pretty good. We don't need the rest of the Eurozone. But the other number that I think, and this is where it gets pitched as this is a conservative thing, and I think that a lot of people are missing what's really going on here. In 1970, about 6% of people living in the United Kingdom or in Great Britain were immigrants, first-generation immigrants, or not, British citizens. Today, it's 17%. Which is a pretty substantial portion, almost 1 in 5. And on the right, we have watched the British equivalents of Pat Buchanan and George Wallace, and Donald Trump, for that matter, running around going, oh my God, look at all these immigrants. We're not, it's not just, people from the poor European countries, the gypsies can come over from Hungary. Oh my God. It's not just that, but now we're also having to take in all these immigrants that the European Union is forcing on us. Yeah, it's a wild exaggeration, and it plays on xenophobia and racism. But from what I'm hearing and the people that I'm talking to, and maybe I'm wrong. I don't live in the UK. I don't know the average Brit. But it seems to me that what has happened, much like what has happened here in the United States with our trade deals, for example, is that a broad consensus, a lot of people said, okay, this is not working for us. Shipping our jobs off to China, shipping our, bringing cheap labor in from Hungary, this is not working for the United Kingdom. And we would like to have, there's parts of the UK now that look like, Baltimore. That look like, American cities that have lost all their manufacturing. And, it's not because of the Eurozone, or the European Union, excuse me, in large part, frankly. It's because of the whole globalism thing that's going on. And I think that whole thing is breaking down. It's breaking down here in the United States. You see the opposition to the trade deals. It's breaking down in Europe. Now, what happened, and those of you who are longtime viewers of this program or listeners to this program know that, I've been, in 2012, I wrote Rebooting the American Dream. Back in the late 90s, I was writing about how, this neoliberal consensus, this idea that we all should function as if there were no borders, and isn't that noble and isn't that liberal, that it wasn't noble and it wasn't liberal and it was going to end in disaster. And just because Pat Buchanan agrees with me on that for different reasons, I'm looking at the economics of this, he's looking at the racial piece of it, doesn't mean that I'm on the right or that he's on the left. I think this completely transcends Democrat, Republican, left-right politics. And what we're looking at here in the United States, and what we're looking at and what the UK just told us, this is a symptom of a much larger situation, which is a rejection across the world of this so-called neoliberal consensus, the idea that borders shouldn't exist unless you happen to be a billionaire trying to stash money outside the country, and that and the driving down the cost of labor at no matter what is just a fine thing. Thank you very much. And that and essentially unelected government in Brussels is going to be making all the decisions for your country.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And we've talked about this before in the context of the United States, and I think it might be useful to do that again, because what Europe just went through is what we went through just before the Constitution.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.